If you could create any media product that doesn't exist today, if you could, maybe it's just not realistic, but just for fun, what would you create? We like to sit around and brainstorm about things that, the next generation of fans are going to use and consume. Is there anything out there you wish you could do?
Well, first of all, it would be mobile first. And I think a co-viewing experience, a true co-viewing experience for sports fans that was built for sports fans, I think would be, again, especially with a uncertain short-term future in terms of both attending events and gathering, either in personal homes or in bars and taverns, and experiencing the game, if you will, the way it has been in the past, is something that fascinates me. When my son, who's now about to graduate college, was in high school, they all used video games this way. It wasn't that they were particularly passionate gamers or particularly skilled gamers, but the game was the way they socialized, right? They all got on, and it was as much about catching up and busting chops and then it was about the game they were playing. And I feel like, there's a virtual experience in sports that's missing that could scratch that itch in a way. And maybe I'm just hyper-focused on that because of this moment in time. But to me, that's one of the missing experiences in the sports offering space.
I don't think it's crazy at all because you're in this world. We just had this conversation with an NBA team that has their regional sports network deal, coming up, and we're contemplating that value of the direct-to-consumer relationship and gambling, which I'd love to have your opinion on gaming and what that does to the future of broadcast. But the idea being that this generation, as you cited with your son and playing video games in a group where AR and VR are going, it's not unrealistic in the slightest in my mind, because we have NBA fans in Asia that will never attend a game in person. But imagine their ability to sit courtside, and watch LeBron James win a world championship virtually and socializing with the person to their left and right while doing it. It seems like there's some pretty serious ticket revenue potential, or experiential revenue, however you want to call it. We've done a bunch of work on the idea of sort of subscription-based ticketing, or membership models, right, where you have this fluid membership. And why wouldn't it include actual physical things like merchandise and attending in person, along with virtual attendance and media rights, whether they're third tier rights or, to your point, maybe it's a plus up model. So yeah, 5G is going to make a lot of these things very feasible, by the way. So this isn't even something that you say in some hypothetical distant future. So I love it that you said that, because I agree.
And I don't even think the game experience has to be all that good either, right? Like, I think people are, it's being serious.
If you're with your friends, it's like a tailgate, right?
Yeah. And I think about the times I went to games when I was a kid, and it was like a group of fans and guys, and we had generally had pretty bad tickets, and it didn't matter, right? Because we were there and we were just having fun with our friends. And I think a lot of times we are guilty of trying to build the perfect experience or the absolute transformational experience, which, by the way, when it's right, is great. And maybe this is another lesson born out of COVID. I think we from a production perspective, we learned that if the alternative is nothing, fans are willing to sacrifice a certain degree of bells and whistles for a baseline experience, right? And all of a sudden, announcers calling the games from their homes is not the threshold issue that we thought it was, right? When I think of the shared experience, I'd rather see it arrive sooner than later, even if it meant it wasn't exactly placing the fan from Asia in a courtside seat, at the Staples Center. Even if it was just a sort of down and dirty, fun way for friends and family to gather with the game as the impetus.
Well, you just have to look at the esports data, right? And look at that collaboration that's taking place and that, virtual community. No question. We've been paying a lot of attention, as most people have been, to these non-fungible tokens and these, virtual rights. And again, you mentioned your son playing video games growing up. Another thing I think most people in our generation are not fully grasping yet is the comfort with these newer generations to purchase virtual inventory, owning virtual rights to a highlight or whatever it might be. When you think of like Top Shot, right? It's not a problem at all. If you look at Roblox and other games for young kids, they're anticipating the revenue to go from about a quarter to over 75% of the revenue to be premiums in-game, in-game purchases. So the idea that someone wouldn't virtually buy a better seat in a virtual attendance of a game, that might sound laughable and ridiculous, not at all. I was forced to pay attention to Twitch just because of some work we had been doing the last couple of years with them, and the high quality broadcaster that you go to such great lengths to lock up in a contract as far as on-air talent. And we've done some of that testing for you all. and then there could just be a star from another genre that has nothing to do with that commentating on a broadcast, and there's tens of thousands of people following that person, right? Acting as a commentator for an event or a sport or what have you. So I agree. I think we've overestimated how important the quality of it is, and versus the whole community, the sense of community and relationship.
And we've put our toe in the water on the whole megacast concept, right? Which is, It's a bit of a blunt instrument right now. Like but we found a couple formats that we think fans really respond to. And a lot of times, to your point, it's not the game presentation can actually be minimized, in favor of what's a much more interesting conversation, as an alternative presentation. If you want the absolute pristine, highest quality presentation of the game itself, that's available to you. But if you want to go have a little fun snack, on the side, that's there too.